Hiram Larew is an accomplished food scientist whose poems find in twigs, leaves, seeds, and the night sky surprising wisdom and cause for gratitude. His poems have appeared in Rhino, Ars Poetica, Innisfree, and 6 collections, including forthcoming Patchy Wave from Cyber Wit Press. It's my pleasure to introduce Hiram Larew.
Thank you. Really appreciate it, David. And I want to especially stop and thank Alyssa and Ed, who can't join us here this evening. I talked with him on the phone last night. It was such a pleasure to visit with him for a few minutes. And David for organizing the Crazy Wisdom series and for this chance, of course, to visit with you. And it's been a real delight to read alongside Linda and her powerful, necessary, I'm sure difficult work. And so that was wonderful, Linda. Thanks so much for sharing that. My name is Hiram Larew. I'm from Maryland. And so what I'm going to do is to read a few poems, and then if time permits, include in the middle of the poems a public service announcement about an initiative I founded a few years back called Poetry X Hunger. And I don't think I'll have time to do much more than this just right here mention of Voices of Woodlawn, which is a poetry, music, art program that I helped organize about the legacy of America's tragic history of slavery at historic plantations. You can see that program, which has been aired now literally all over the world in the Zoomosphere, on YouTube by just simply searching YouTube for Voices of Woodlawn, WOODLAWN. So let me dive into some poems. All but one of the poems I'm going to share are from Patchy Ways, which is due out literally any minute from Cyber Wit Press. Many of these poems were written at a waterside cottage in Maryland, and so they come from a point of view that acknowledges years and years of privilege. And they also sit atop a spot that can't help but celebrate joy. You can find more information on Patchy Ways at my website, which is just Hiram Larew Poetry, all one phrase, hiramlarewpoetry.com. So what I would like to do for the first poem is to share screen. So let me toggle here. There we go. And the first poem is titled An Edges Lit. And as you can see in my cue line up front or up top, it's about my love of light, especially backlighting. An edges lit. Whenever I'm caught by splendor's gift of fingertips, whenever light seems to outline love with this could be, or when a flicker from behind stops me by heart, I'm wonder-stunned. And when I turn towards any bright that's all at once, I almost feel my ever wills as time arrives sparklet. Such pure catch eye along a leaf or grin is worth a living for. And even more when flashes call from evening fields like yet to come. When I glance, an edges lit, or sudden's sheen, or nearly glee, or any slivers of, I stop at once for every this is why, or so much more than me. And I will go to a second poem, which is all about frustration and bedevilment. It's titled Splashed Paint. Heaven in hell, what a day it's been. A devil of slams and broken down stuff, a shorted out curse of popping bolts and cracks in bricks that somehow then started leaking. Even more, that bam of a what the devil crash. And then, oh then, how paint somehow, dear God of spills, got loose. Yes, sir, a day of days when I swear I give up, ended all of the misery by stomping its hat flat dead for good. I'm hearing just a little something. If somebody could mute, or if everyone could mute, I really would appreciate it. Thank you so much. And here's a poem on kind of from the point of view of life's whimsies. It's titled Arms Widely. If you get angry, walk backwards. If you're terribly lonely, sing off key. And when too tired to begin, wear bright socks. You'll love it. And if you're worried or anxious, just remember last summer's trees. If you're feeling poorly, read history. And over all of that, if or as you're giving up, let some kids come in. So as I mentioned, I wanted to take just a real quick break for a public, what I call public service announcement about this initiative that is titled Poetry X Hunger, with a kind of a logo or a motto, if you will, of fighting hunger one poem at a time. I launched this initiative about 5 years ago as a way to bring the world of poetry to the anti-hunger cause. Before this, there simply weren't many poems available about hunger. And I realized, of course, that poetry could help the anti-hunger cause by grabbing people's hearts and minds in ways that hunger statistics simply can't. So with early support from the United Nations, the Maryland State Arts Council, and the Capital Area Food Bank, a huge food bank here in the greater Washington, D.C. area, we created a website and began to post poems by poets, some of whom are on the line tonight, poets near and far from all over the world, poems about many aspects of hunger. And we've posted now between 300 and 400 such poems on the Poetry X Hunger website. And most importantly, they are being used in classrooms, houses of worship, food banks, community gatherings, and by anti-hunger leaders to discuss food, agriculture, sustainability, nutrition, social equity, food waste, and other hunger-relevant issues. And recently, I am so proud of the fact that in partnership with the Poetry Project and T.A. Niles, we used the poems and artwork that was inspired by those poems to raise more than $5,000 for Feed the Children, and then another $1,000 for Roots for Life. So all that to say, check out the website and consider submitting a poem to Poetry X Hunger. The next poem I'd like to read is kind of a romp of a poem. It's titled, as you'll see here, Fun. For whatever gurgles or winks first or strays, or whatever lives like maps or rummages, and for corners near or far, or noons in love with weathered rocks. For this vista's curve and slant, or fences lost in weeds, for all the fun that sideway makes, and especially for whatever shares the shade. This next poem is really a poem, what I call a poem that is daydreaming. It's titled Hinge. If clouds could sidle up to us as friends, if what we wished oiled every hinge, or had us spend all our time outside, or framed each page with light foretold, and if cans on shelves were faces held, the ones we've grown to love, if keys opened all the wind for us, or weeds hid gold inside, if echoes from the well came up to treasure us, if all such miracles were hardly said, like thunder far away, if tasseled corn would teach us songs, or only this, if vines could whistle from porches. This next poem first appeared in Live Encounters and then in Patchy Ways. It's kind of about an off-balance life, if you will. It's titled Country Stores. I live in meanwhile. My time frays with its undoing. My breath slantly breathes. And these turning pages just suggest me. I hide in the midst of and peek through jaunts or schemes. My sacks are packed full of long for. My train whistles, and I travel the wishing on halfway between. Better said, I love country stores that sell that smell of then or just so. And the next poem I'm going to present twice, and I'll explain that here in just a moment. I'm first going to read it to you, and then I'll present it to you in a slightly different way. It's titled Magic, and this is the one exception to what I'm reading this evening. This one appeared in my previous collection titled Mud Ajar. It first appeared in Orbis and then in Mud Ajar, and it's titled Magic. The stars in your chest, the sounds of their glow, their flash blink wings, their touch top skies, these leaps towards light, these grateful, urging, holy stars in your chest and now in your throat. Their voices of beings, even into your heart and beyond. Their blaze, each star that starts in your chest and spins out from there, spins you as nothing else can, as magic comes true with your chances so inside and out, with each and every star so over the moon. So I'm going to toggle over to the American Sign Language interpretation of magic. This is interpreted by a deaf poet, Eric Epstein, and I know I'm terrifically biased, but I think Eric does a magical job with this interpretation of magic. And no, there's nothing wrong with the audio on your computer. It is a silent video. I'll expand it here and we'll get started. Magic as interpreted in American Sign Language by Eric Epstein. So that was magic as interpreted by the amazing Eric Epstein. I'm so grateful to have run across him and we've worked together, and I just am delighted by, as I say, I think a magical presentation of that poem. So I'll, coming into the home stretch here, I think I've just got one more poem and of course have to end on a love poem. It first appeared in Reflections and now in Patchy Ways. It's titled Hats or Trees. We are alive, my love, and there is your chin, or porch lights turned on, and your grin as far as fields or trains can see. What more than this can ever be, my love? This overhum of time that through whatever ways will become in dusk the breeze of hats or trees, my love. This just right here, this now, my love, and what's to come, and we're alive. And so, my love, these O's that blend, how mornings know or evenings hum, as all the gathers breathe. Thanks so much, David. That concludes my reading.